friends, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Fort Worth Roots. You can find Fort Worth Roots on all of your favorite streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, and many more. You can also go directly to our website, and it's the quickest way to get an episode of Fort Worth Roots once we put it up. Go to fortworthroots.com and click on episodes. If you're using the mobile version, you'll have to take the screen and swipe it to the left so that you can get to that top right-hand corner. But it is there, and you can click on it and go directly to episodes. When we put out an episode, it is instantly available. After that, other platforms cycle through their upload process, and it's anybody's guess when it's going to populate. There's probably a way to Google that, but anyway, quickest way to get it is on fortworthroots.com, and then within an hour, 2 hours, it'll populate on your favorite podcast player. Stay tuned to the very end of the episode. We'll talk about more of our sponsors and events coming up. Real quick, we want to tell you about Galaxy Wilderness Disc Golf. Galaxy Wilderness is dedicated to promoting disc golf to the masses for its health benefits through outdoor therapy, exercise, and camaraderie. You can find them on Facebook as Galaxy Wilderness Disc Golf, or you can email them at GalaxyWildernessDG@gmail.com. Their phone number is 682-228-0399. They will bring a full disc golf course to your place, wherever that might be, if you got enough room for it. They set it all up for you. They got all the discs that you would need. Play your heart out as long as you want, and then when you're done, they come back and they pick it all up. Join us this weekend, October 5th, this Saturday, out at Pouring Glory. This is, we're talking about events all the time, but this is our big annual event. If you don't make it to any other event all year long, we would love for you to come out to this one because we pull all the stops out. We really go as far as we can with this thing, and spare no expense. So come join us October 5th, this Saturday, as we celebrate Fort Worth music and Fort Worth culture. It benefits Cook Children's Hospital. All of our vendors out there, a portion of the vendor fee is going to Cook Children's Hospital. And also, Fort Worth Roots is paying $5 additional to Cook Children's Hospital for every single one of you that show up for this event. So if you haven't been to Pouring Glory, the food's amazing. The beer tap wall is very well stocked. I mean, all sorts of different options. It's a great place, good vibe. If you haven't been there yet, then you're missing out. If you have been, then you already know. But we will love to see you out there. We've got everything in order for this weekend, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We were hoping for 70 degrees outside. It looks like it's going to be just a little bit warmer, but still not unbearable. Really good weather. It's going to be, right now, they're saying 90 degrees. They were telling us 80-something for the past couple of weeks, and we're getting really excited, but 90's not terrible, so we'll take it. Excuse me. All right, this show this week is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. It's concerning artificial intelligence and robotics. And the way that we did this, the way that we found our guest, is really interesting. We're going to get into that and exactly what they do. It's more than a mouthful. They do a lot. They're very these are professionals, and they've got very long titles. But very excited to have these guys with us for this episode, and I hope that we get to do more with them in the future. And if you haven't heard about this, we started doing a morning show. Monday through Thursday, you can catch us. We will have the episodes uploaded and at the ready. Again, the best way, the quickest way to get it is fortworthroots.com. Should be ready at 8 a.m. every morning, maybe a little bit after that. We are recording this show. It's about a 20-minute episode. We cover local news, local events. It is absolutely the best way to keep in touch with the community and find out what's happening in your backyard. If you have a 501c, or if you have some other community event, or if you're a musician or an artist and you've got something happening here in Fort Worth or the surrounding area, just nothing east of Grand Prairie, please. We'd love to hear from you. You can call us at 817-988-1292, and we will put you on that morning's episode. We're going to be doing a lot more segments, and as it continues to develop, we'll have more and more information for you guys. So, and we have some big announcements October 5th, and we'd love for you to be there live to hear about it in person. That is enough talking out of me. Thank y'all so much for being here. Excuse me. Please give it up for our new friends, Dr. Nick Gans, Michail Theofanidis, and Cody Lee. And let's start the show. I am here today with Nick, Cody, and Michail. Let's go round robin here, and if you'll tell everybody your full name and position and where you call work, where you call your place of study. Nick, can we start with you?
Sure. My name is Nick Gans. I am the Division Head of Automation and Intelligent Systems at UT Arlington Research Institute. I am also an Associate Professor in the Computer Science and Engineering Department at UT Arlington.
Excellent. Cody?
Yes, my name's Cody Lundberg. I work as a research scientist directly under Dr. Nick Gans here. Work at the UT Research Institute in Fort Worth.
Excellent. Michail?
All right. Hello, everybody. My actual name is Michail Theofanidis, but feel free to call me Michael. I'm also a research scientist, and I also work at UTARI, and I'm in the same division as everybody here. And I work at UTARI as well.
Excellent, excellent. So I waited until now to tell you how I found you. Thought it'd be more fun to do this in person. I've been obsessed with this ChatGPT Bing attachment, the Bing search engine. And so I've been just asking it questions and see what kind of answers it comes up with. And I've been doing this for months since they rolled it out on Bing. And it's getting more accelerated. It's obvious that they're improving the functionality of it. And so right before I sent you that email, I asked it. I was like, well, who would you like to have on the show? And it said, well, that's a very interesting question, and provided me with a bunch of interesting guests. And I said, well, how about somebody from the DFW area? She rattled off 6 different names and what they did. And I said, well, out of the 6 you just provided me, which one would be your favorite? Who do you think would be the best guest to have on the show? And she said, Dr. Nick. And I was like, okay, well, that's who will. And I said, well, okay, I'm going to contact him. Yep. And I talk to it like it's a human because it's more fun that way. Yeah. And she says, okay, well, let me know if you need any help putting together an email to reach out to the doctor or any other help. Just let me know. I'm like, great, yeah, type up an email for me. The one I sent you, minus a couple of changes I made, that was all AI. Every bit of it. Did you detect any of that when I sent you that email?
I did not. I'm actually really surprised to hear that, or that ChatGPT would choose me. But I'm always very polite when I use ChatGPT or Copilot. Say thank you for your response. So maybe I am on their good side.
Right. Okay. So we're of the same mind as far as that's concerned, because I do. I talk to it like a human, so that for one, I don't want to take away from my humanity by getting into a habit of talking to anyone, whether it's a computer or a person, in a way that's less human. So it's more for my benefit, but also, one day this might be my robot overlord, and I want to be on the good side. But I thought that was wildly interesting. So can you kind of go into your field of study, your scope of work, and what you do?
So my work is broadly in the area of robotics. More specifically, I work mostly on the control system side of robotics. So getting the robots to do what you want them to do correctly, safely, stably, repeatably every time. Spreading out a little bit more, I work in computer vision, so that we're using cameras as the primary sensor for the robots to find whatever objects they're supposed to find or what location they're supposed to be at. This can extend from not only robot arms in an industrial setting, but also autonomous vehicles. These are all falling under the same sort of umbrella.
Yeah.
And then more recently into machine learning. I'm hesitant to say AI. I'm not someone who deeply researches artificial intelligence, but we use those tools in order to help the robot to learn what's in its environment, or learn from humans that are doing activities, or minimize the amount of work that we have to do to program the robots if they're able to learn a lot of that from data rather than really precise modeling or programs and algorithms. That
you say data, you're talking ones and zeros, not necessarily a character from Star Trek.
We're right.
Okay. Are you guys Star Trek fans or Star Wars? Everybody's got a favorite, right? Pepsi or Coke?
I like both, but on the Star Trek side, mostly just Voyager.
Okay, you got your favorite. It's Voyager.
Yeah.
I guess I'm more on the Star Wars side.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Michael?
Well, I liked Star Wars when I was a younger man.
Uh-huh.
But there's other genres, that now I'm a big fan of. So I don't know if you want to get into that, but
Maybe we could have just like a sidebar episode where we just go into all the sci-fi shows.
I think it will.
Michael might be well fit for a sidebar.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I could keep up, I think. I love sci-fi
Cody
shows.
can keep up as well, Don't try to get out of the conversation. But.
So, Cody, you were telling me that you and Michael work under Dr. Nick, and can you kind of go into what you do?
Yes.
Your scope of work?
I am a UT Arlington graduate with a bachelor's in electrical engineering, and I started there as a research scientist in 2013 with an initial focus on system integration. So like if a couple of people get these sensors together and these people have a robot together, I would be kind of the central integrator to make a larger system where all the pieces fit together and can accomplish a goal. Very focused on applied research, which the UT Research Institute, that's kind of a big focus there. So it's not what is sometimes called like basic research, and like in a casual setting that might sound insulting, but like basic research is insanely difficult.
Sure.
But that's like fundamental research of like the nature of how the world works or how physics works or something. But with a much bigger focus on applied research. So we have objectives and goals and applications that we're looking at.
Can you give me kind of an example where applied research comes in from basic?
Yeah, so if you're looking at like biochemistry or something, like how do these cells interact with those cells? So that might be an okay example of fundamental research.
Well, maybe like in our field, if you were creating a brand new architecture for machine learning to do something that's really never been done before, so we might say with theoretical research rather than basic research is another term. And then applied research, where we're a little bit more at, is, okay, well, now that somebody's created that thing, maybe not even necessarily with a goal in mind for it, but
how
just
do we
to see,
use it?
can we do it?
Yes.
Yeah, then we'll make it actually work. Or, we had a long conversation in the car ride over here of like, well, here's a tool that was used for one thing. We think it could be applied for this other problem. Let's see if we can't make that work. And then it solves a problem that didn't previously have a solution. With something that maybe people weren't even thinking could be applied to it.
Okay.
And so in like my experience, I've looked into using robots in hospitals. Can they help take a load off of a nurse or a nurse assistant by doing some of the simple tasks in the hospital, for instance?
Yeah.
There's a lot of research in how do you make an unmanned aerial vehicle or a drone in the past. But I've done a lot of projects with Texas Department of Transportation in how do you inspect a road with a drone? How do you inspect a radio tower? How do you inspect a bridge? How do you fly under a bridge without GPS, without crashing a unmanned aerial vehicle or drone?
That sounds important. Yeah.
So very like application applied focused.
Yeah. So quick question on that, talking about robotics inside the nursing field, because that was the immediate application I saw for the most benefit out of the new Tesla robot. Is it Optimus? Yeah. And they said, for $30,000 or $20,000, something like that, and they're hoping to get the price down, which to me sounds like bullshit. But
Cybertruck price.
Right. So they're gonna roll out this robot, and it can do articulate tasks. It can fold laundry. It can do this. It can do that. But how awesome would it be if your elderly parents at home, they need a caretaker, and for the price of $30,000, you have this machine in there that can help them get to the restroom or go check the door and go get the mail, or just really remedial stuff that is extremely expensive to have in-home health care, which is basically what they do. Help them to the restroom, do things around the house, so on and so forth. So that's kind of what you're talking about with the medical field, maybe the more basic stuff, right?
Yes, maybe even going a step down in basic. partially because my work in that specific field is 6 years old now. So not like yesterday.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have looked into specifically folding laundry, just simply retrieving items around an environment.
People will be lining up
like-
around the corner to get a robot if it can just fold laundry.
Yeah,
right?
laundry would be a big one. But yeah, just getting waters, stuff like that, checking temperature,
Sure.
checking vitals and stuff like that. One of the, just a specific little note on that, one of the things we found out in human subject testing, which is a huge regulatory step you go through, is they did not like having a robot hold a contactless thermometer and place it up to their forehead.
That was a
It
no-no.
made
huh?
people a tad uncomfortable.
Well, how would they rather the temperature be taken? Because that's,
That's
the
a great
least
question.
intrusive way.
That's 100% true. Probably not with it like right. I don't know.
Oh,
But
okay.
that was,
yeah, putting an object up to their head, I guess.
Yeah, like a handle,
So maybe like a pulse
an
ox type.
extension. Yeah.
Put it on their
Um,
finger. That'd
yeah.
be easier. Cool. And Michael, do you work inside the same facility as these two?
Yes, we work. Actually, my office is like
2 doors down from mine.
5-6 steps away from my office. Is 5-6 steps away from like Cody's office, and we collaborate almost on a daily basis. I would like to say.
Yeah, definitely.
Almost daily basis.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Then what's your scope of work? What do you specialize in?
So, when I talk to theoretical people, they tell me, oh, Michael has great practical skills. And when I work with practical people, they tell me that, oh, Michael is a theory guy. So, I guess like the end is that when I'm a universalist guy, right? So when I knew I wanted to be a roboticist since I was 5 years old, you know? Actually, like, I remember I was 5 years old and they told me, Michael, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I told them I want to be one day in America and I want to work with robots.
Really, at 5 years old?
5 years old, they asked me that. I
That's
told
a little
them that.
creepy, right? At
It
5?
is a little bit creepy, and it's like I often like say this to myself. I'm like, you know, I actually made it, you know. So
That 5-year-old knew what he was talking about.
yes,
Which
yeah.
makes it
Well,
more
okay,
creepy.
Before 5 years old, I
How
wanted
did
to
you
be
know?
a knight.
Oh,
But then
okay, okay.
I realized that there isn't any dragons around. Maybe I should switch. And I think the second coolest thing was making robots.
Yeah,
So,
for
and I
sure.
was like, which is the best country to make robots? America. So that's what I want
Yeah.
to do. So.
Do you guys follow this gentleman over in England? Trying to remember. I think he's in. It'd take me too long to remember. But anyway, he built a full working replica of Johnny Five in his basement or garage. Machined all the parts himself. And he brought that thing from overseas to McFly's, which is a pub right down the street, and just ran this thing around the room. And everybody, like my age group, like that was one of our heroes. Johnny Five
Yeah,
was
that's,
incredible. And to see this thing, dude, it was creepy.
What's
Like I
the
had
name
the
of that
hair
movie?
standing up on my
Spark?
Short circuit.
short circuit.
Yeah, I was saying
Oh,
Spark.
I kept saying Johnny Five, but yeah.
The
So
robot's name is Johnny
right,
Five, and
right.
the movie is
Short Circuit. That's right.
Yeah.
But it was unreal being in the same
Yeah.
room with that thing because I am telling you, it was the exact same robot. He was meticulous with the details. I mean, the same functionality, the same eyebrows, the
mannerisms.
I mean, it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. So, yeah, robots for sure. When I was a kid, that's all I cared about.
It's not only that, it's like I was always interested in a plethora of different things. And I mean, I was, and the funny thing about like one of the main reasons why robotics is so fascinating is it's kind of like we kind of see ourselves in it, right? Like for example, there's a lot of like there's a lot of philosophies because let me tell you something about robots. Like we know how to build buildings, we know how to build cars, right? But we don't actually know how to build robots. What we do is that we just piece ideas together, and many times, you know, these ideas are bio-inspired, right? That's why, for example, there's a lot of robots that they look anthropomorphic, right? So when it comes to this is a very integral component in when it comes to the creation of robots, like the fact that you have to combine a lot of different things. So since I knew that this is what I wanted to do, like from a young age, I'm like, okay, Michael, you have to make sure you have many different skills.
Yeah.
Right? So these people have like this opinion about me because one of the things I made sure from a young age is like, you have to have your math skills, you have to have your coding skills, you have to. I'm not a very hardware, like Cody is better at me at hardware. So I don't do that much hardware, but anything else I am at least adequate in.
Excellent.
So yeah, I do. So I do a lot of vision, I do machine learning, I do controls, I've done dynamics, kinematics, I've done a lot of things.
In the world of machines, you're a real renaissance man.
Well, I am a homo universalis,
Yeah.
in the area of STEM.
Excellent.
That's
Well, if I'm building a robot, you're definitely on my team. Okay, so we got a kind of a general understanding of what you guys are doing. Doctor, is there a direction that you see your research going, or the work that you guys are engaged in? Is there kind of a path you see clearing out in front of you that might kind of change the way you guys work or operate, or your goals in the future?
That's a good question. Well, first, call me Nick. That's
Okay.
that's fine.
Sorry
But,
about that.
No problem. But yeah, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of times what we do is, especially me, my job is the directing the research is we go over what are proposals that are currently out there, usually federal government saying like, we have a project, we need this to get done. Somebody tell us how you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sets a lot of our direction, like what problems need solving.
Mm-hmm.
Also, though, we work with small businesses, both local and across the country, on projects. So they may hire us to take care of something for them, develop the technology, or there's something they're working on and they're 75% of the way there, but they don't know how to solve a particular problem, or they don't have somebody with that skill set.
Yeah.
We'll work with them on that. So
Okay.
that determines a lot of the work that we do.
Would you be allowed to kind of give us an example of a industry or, a company that you've worked for, organization, to solve a problem, a specific problem?
So we're wrapping up a project with a company out in Virginia, funded by the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay, good group of guys.
Yeah, well, they want to see how much very heavy vehicles, this doesn't sound that exciting, but are deforming the roads that they're on. So
Okay.
you have, I think it's like a 130-ton airplane with a tank in it. Just putting it on the ground, that ground sinks by a certain amount.
Yeah.
They want to understand what this is so that they can make sure that their infrastructure is taken care of. So we worked for a long time on very high resolution computer vision algorithms, 3D algorithms, to analyze the road directly underneath the vehicle. So we built this rig that attaches to the tire. There was a mechanical engineering to make sure these cameras aren't bouncing around as things move back and forth. A lot of computer vision work that Cody did in order to build these images and create 3D images. We're working with the company that they're doing a lot of vision work, and also looking at how do you measure the velocity of the vehicle so we can make sure that the cameras are taking pictures at synchronized times.
Yeah.
And in the end, this all works. It works quite nicely. We're waiting on the Army to have us back out they're in Mississippi, but to test it all.
Man, that's awesome.
So that's one project. We had
You
another
guys-
one for computer vision algorithms to detect garbage in the water.
Uh-huh.
So again, computer vision algorithms, we go out through garbage in the water on a fishing pole so we can get it back out.
Right,
But
yeah.
we just had to get thousands of images in order to train machine learning algorithms in order to spot this stuff. And in the end, it worked quite
You guys
successful.
are the real life Mythbusters. That's what this is, right?
Less explosions.
Yeah.
A lot less
Hopefully,
explosions.
right?
Had a few sparks, but I think that's the closest thing to an explosion.
So I kind of off-railed us there.
But I guess, I don't know, a future direction. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of ideas, things that I'm interested in. So that's the other side, is especially with the students, because I'm also a professor, so I wear two hats. And, bringing in PhD students who can do more of that basic or theoretical research, try to develop something new. So interested in stuff for tracking. I'm really interested actually in tracking herds of wild hogs. It's a huge problem in Texas.
Yes, it is.
And can we track them from UAVs? But now we need to understand how these things, how they move with respect to each other. They definitely kind of stick close to each other. They're a herd, but they don't, they'll
Operate
switch
as a
randomly
herd.
directions. One of
Yeah.
them will spin out. So trying to understand, can we build a model of this and understand what their dynamics are so we can predict where they're heading? So that's one thing I'm interested in putting a project together for.
Do you know the history on that, the wild hogs?
The Spanish dropping them off?
Something like that. But I heard this story, and I haven't read it from a reputable source. I heard this on a show or something. They were talking about how whenever we got introduced with these hogs, it took off like wildfire. And at some point, we reached out to someone in the European nation and said, hey, you guys have been dealing with this. What's the solution? How do we fix this problem? And you know what their response was? You have to poison all of the open water holes. And our agricultural department or whoever was contacting them, they're like, you're crazy. We're not doing that, right? And they're like, well, enjoy your new hog infestation. You will never get rid of them.
Well, we're working with a group out in Texas A&M on this, and they have made feeders that either do poison. They also can do contraceptive, which is a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
But they're like, you cannot let non-hogs
Yeah,
eat
how do
this.
you do
So
that?
they gave us all this video, and there's hogs eating out of the troughs. They just used them to get them to come out there. Here comes a deer. Here comes raccoons. There's raccoons and hogs like hanging out in the same spot. And, you know,
there's no way to stop that, right?
No. So what we're trying to do is, I guess this would qualify as a robot, but it's a feeder that will only open when there's hogs and only hogs there.
Yeah.
So again, we're training a machine learning classifier to detect, okay, there's a hog and there's a deer. When that deer leaves, you know, maybe now we can open up and the hog is
I'm envisioning like a tiny R2-D2 arm that just extends one pill and just gives it to the hog, and then the hog eats it and goes about its merry
the
way.
hog could probably eat the arm.
Well, we have some other ideas that were a little bit more wild. Can we talk about them, Dr. Gans, about the sheep herding and, you know,
I'm sorry, CPR.
The herding.
Sheeping.
You know,
Sheep.
the herding,
Sorry.
like, you know, the swarm of drones that they will herd, you know. You remember we had about these ideas about a year ago, right?
Sorry, you're being purposely circumspect, because there is some degree of where if we say too much of what we're trying to do.
I don't want you to do that. Absolutely not. So I'm sure there's lots of interesting ideas, and let's not step on anybody's toes. Excellent, very cool. So your next big task is going to be trying to rid North America of its most invasive species.
Maybe we can be part of the solution.
Yeah.
It is. It's a very important
Tall
problem,
order.
but that's a good thing. You find an important problem, you try to figure out, is there a way that we can solve this that hasn't been tried yet, and try to put that to work.
Yeah. Is there anything outside of that field of research that you see becoming kind of your lane of priority, Cody?
I guess I'm actually kind of busy enough right now. I don't really think about the next big thing every single time.
Yeah.
We kind of specialize in our roles. So I think Dr. Gans covered it very well. I don't have anything too majored out on top of that at the moment, I don't think.
I mean, maybe another example is we're partnering with UT Southwestern. So there's another division at UT Arlington Research Institute that also does biomedical technologies. They've done some very nice work on soft robots, either as exoskeletons or as a way patients that are on, they're bedridden, that this soft robot can sort of manipulate them, move them around a little bit so that they don't get pressure sores. It's another big problem.
Yeah.
But we were looking with UT Southwestern radiation oncology that right now, radiation oncology, they have some very sophisticated, actually have robots in there. They are the same robots that build cars, but they're holding a radiation emitter, and a proton cannon, and they can change the shape of it. They can do all this great work where they can medical imaging of the tumor. They can get the shape of it. They can target it. They can do all the great stuff. But they basically have to bolt the patient down to the table. It literally used to be bolts. They would put something permanently affixed to you, and they would kind of screw you in. Now it's a thermoplastic mask that molds to you, and you're just locked down there.
Not going anywhere.
We're looking at soft robots that can hold you in place softly but comfortably, but also kind of like push you around a little bit.
And I guess the main benefit here would be less damage to healthy tissue with a robot that can make all these different
and so we can do really fine sort of motions of the head and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, we did some preliminary work several years ago, wrote some papers. Now we're trying to take that to the next level. But at that point, we just got to get these air bladders to inflate properly. So, ask Cody, can you design us a controller that will make these air bladders go exactly to where the level we want.
Yeah.
So that when a person, we have a mannequin in there right now, but, we can push the head where we want it. And
Right.
so he spent not even a few weeks, like you got that done quite quickly.
A couple of weeks, yeah.
Wow.
And now it's like, well, now we need a computer vision that looks at the head and tells you where it is. So he's, that'll be the next task that he needs to tackle. Okay,
So the thing that has got everybody's attention, I'm sure, like the general public, is just like, what does all this AI technology mean for us in connection with robotics and general machine learning and everything that's happening just over a very short amount of time? Let's just kind of go round robin. What impacts do you see within the next, let's say, 5 years?
It's a good question. First of all, I want to really state I'm not an expert. I wouldn't call myself an expert in generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the field that I work in.
Right.
And that's also been interesting because things that I've seen with it, you say 5 years, I think it's getting very difficult to predict what's going to happen in
6 months?
Yeah, with that avenue in 5 years.
Yeah.
Things like we really did think that autonomous driving was going to be solved, and that one's always like 5 years down the road.
Yeah.
But with the generative AI, it seems to have been very rapidly increasing. Now we seem to be seeing like a plateau effect, and in terms of the changes that are happening. But who knows what's going to happen in the next few months or
what all does generative AI encompass?
Generative AI is when an AI tool can make and produce things from whole cloth, right? So you may be giving it prompts, but then it generates its response uniquely. And so
this is more than just text, right?
Right. So you had already mentioned ChatGPT. That's maybe the most well-known of the large language models, which do generate responses, language. But they can do a lot of other things as well. But then that also includes the diffusion models, which are what are making pictures. So DALL-E is maybe the most famous one of those, but those are where you can give it a prompt of draw me, and you can ask for something very strange or novel, and it will generate images that are generally pretty close to what you want.
Are these just still frames, or is it video?
Are you familiar with?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
DALL-E?
DALL-E, DALL-E.
Okay.
And so it is. I'll apologize to get some of them mixed up with who belongs to who and stuff like that. But you can go try it out right after we're done here and say, draw me a green cat eating a cheeseburger on an airplane, and it will draw this for you.
Yeah.
And you can say, make it photorealistic. You can say, give it to me in the style
steampunk
of Picasso. Yeah. And it will generate something that is generally pretty close to what you want.
Yeah, they're starting to have competitions for AI artwork. So you can have competitions where they do not have AI involved whatsoever and people compete in artwork. And now they have new competitions where people only use AI to make artwork and then compete against each other.
And there is also video. You asked. So they can do video, and there's been some pretty remarkable advances in that as well.
Yeah.
In terms of general direction for that, it's certainly going to improve. It's going to keep getting better. And so if you were using ChatGPT or, Copilot's one that we use at the university because we have an agreement with Microsoft for it, if you used those tools a year ago, 2 years ago versus now, it is pretty remarkable what it can do that it could not do.
And that's under Bing? Is that the Copilot?
Copilot is owned by Microsoft.
Yeah, I think that's the one that I've been using.
Probably.
With Microsoft too, so yes.
Right, and so for us, actually, I know with Windows 11, it's just a little button in the bottom right. You touch that, and a little thing pops out, and you can talk to Copilot. But, I mean, if you want an interesting example, maybe it's where there are these trade-offs that we're having. So one thing that maybe is worth talking about, especially I know you have a lot of musical artists in here, is that Cody mentioned it generating artwork. And so with generating artwork, generating text, so they can generate books and scripts and stuff. This was why the, part of why SAG was striking, and now the Video Game Writers Guild is currently striking or was recently striking,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because they want, they understand there's going to be probably some of these tools in use, but you cannot wholly replace your writing staff with AI tools.
But
You know.
how would you differentiate between people that are using it and not? Because what I could do is I can go into Copilot and I can say, hey, make me a script for whatever, and it'll do it. I've done this. I've made
Mhm.
my
Yeah.
own stories out of it just for fun to see what it would come up with, and it's incredible. Now I could take that and be like, all right, now let's make it sound like Andrew came up with this idea. So I don't look at the script anymore, and I just freehand it, and then every once in a while I get off track and I go back, what'd you say? Oh, yeah, and I go back, and
Yeah.
so I'm creating my own story, but I'm
Yeah.
doing it using this as a tool, but
Yes.
in order to keep it from like plagiarism or AI version of plagiarism, I'm just kind of glancing at it,
Yeah,
using
this
it as
is
kind of
all a
notes.
major controversy. And
There's
a couple
no
of
way.
years ago, they were talking about exactly what you said, Nick, of managers would just fire the entire writing staff and then just supplement it with generative AI writing. And now I think the new discourse is that they've realized that's probably not a great idea. You can have hallucinations or other issues, or it doesn't always work. And so now you hire your writing staff specifically to supplement themselves with it. So it's not really taking jobs. You still have the same number of jobs. It's just supplementing the people in those jobs to work faster. That's like a new part of the discourse, but who knows if that part's actually true. And I'm sure some companies will try one thing.
Yeah.
Some companies will try the other one of firing the entire writing staff. And
You brought up an interesting
We'll
term right
see.
now. I want to make sure that everybody knows what you're talking
Sure.
about.
Which one?
Hallucinating.
That
Yeah,
is
you weren't talking about the humans.
No.
no, that's the term for when the AI gives you a big pile of garbage.
Right, and some of that, I'm fascinated with it because it's called hallucinating, but
Yeah.
it's like it's freestyling so hard,
Yeah.
and it's actually coming up with kind of its own imaginary
Yeah, in my
thing that's totally off script, right?
experience, you generally get a super solid answer that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You get a totally garbage answer that you can immediately recognize as garbage, and I've had that a few times. And then sometimes you have an answer that looks right, but is actually garbage and is very hard to find. I personally don't know if I've received one of those, but you can ask a number of lawyers who have lost their licenses, and they'll tell you about it probably in a lot of detail.
It's important to understand how these work, and also I would say I'm not an expert, but
Right.
really what they are doing is that they're predicting what the next word should be.
Right.
It's almost a stream. I want to say stream of consciousness because they are not conscious, but it's just if they're just spouting one word and what's the next word, the next word, the next word. They're predicting what the next word should be. They have been trained so that humans who are reading this will appreciate what they're getting.
yeah.
They'll understand it. It'll be clear. It'll be what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
But that's why, by the time that it gets to the end, it doesn't know what it started with, really.
Because one misstep and it's
Right.
trailing off on
Yep.
the wrong
Right.
path.
But
Yep.
since they're trained to predict what you want to hear, that means they also will very much give you the information. Sometimes it can be useful, but if you're
Yep.
wanting something that is false or wanting something, it
It'll
will
give it
learn
to you.
that. And
And it will generally sound smooth. It will have
Yeah.
a flow to it that seems reasonable.
It's a politician.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
it's just telling you what it thinks you
I'll
want
ask
to
you
hear,
that
so
very
it can
much
get
is
your
doing
vote.
that, yeah.
I'll ask all of you something. Do you know what technology actually means? Like what's the root of the word?
I do
What
not.
does it?
So I'm assuming it's Greek.
Yes.
That's generally
Wait,
the
that's not
answer.
fair. You've got
Yeah,
insider
I
information.
know, but do you actually know what it means?
Tell me.
All right. So, in the Greek language, techni means art.
Okay.
Technology means the art of logic,
Uh-huh.
right? So, art and technology, techni and technologia, right? They've been closer to what you think, right? For example, let's consider, the Dark Ages, right? In the Dark Ages, if I was a wealthy man, I would go to an artist and I would tell him, hey, here's this bag of money, make me a portrait. Now that costs nothing, anybody can take a photo for nothing, right? So from a societal perspective, it seems that artists and technology, they've been competing for a long, long, long time. right? So that's something that has been going on. It is happening, and it will keep happening. So the problem is not the fact that like technology and art, because from the Greek perspective, it's the same thing. You know, it's like, yeah, one is art is something very general, and technology is specifically the art of logic, right?
Yeah.
So the problem that we have, it's a problem that we've had it in, you know, like in human society for a long time, and it's the process of creative destruction. What this process means is that, and again, there are a lot of historical evidence that support that. The art of creative destruction means that, suppose that there is a specific status quo, right? There is certain systems of power within our society. There is how things work, right? Like, we have established certain rules that define how we live, right? So, and this is the status quo. So what happens is that, let's say that somebody comes with a novel idea. That novel idea might be good, but it might disturb the status quo. And this is what we call as the process of creative destruction. For example, and one example of that is that the person who actually invented glass, he said, he went to Caesar and says, "Hey, Caesar, you know, I have a great idea. I have this new material called glass." And he told him, "Okay, do you know, like, have you told this to anybody else?" He says, No, I went first to you. And do you know what Caesar did? Killed him. Exactly.
Of course, that's the move back then.
Exactly, right? So, for example, like...
I never heard the story. I knew where it was going.
Yeah, exactly.
Did he cut his head off with glass?
Say again?
Did he cut his head off with glass?
Yes, glass.
He did use glass?
So, for example, we knew how to automate and create industries from the Roman era, right? It's just the fact that, like, the socio-economical circumstances of this era, they wouldn't allow us to do that, right? So...
As far as we know.
What I wanna say that this is like, because a lot of people, they try to portray that, you know, art and, you know, like, and technology, they are, you know, they are two competing forces. No, it's not. They are extremely close. They are literally the same thing, you know, from a linguistic perspective, if you know what they mean. It's just the fact that our human society is structured in a specific way that we don't allow these two things, which they are actually the same thing, like, to evolve as they should.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
I want to close the loop on what you said and connect it to my prior statement.
Yeah.
So in the 1700s, if you had a family and you wanted a portrait of your family, you had to hire somebody to more or less paint the portrait. Yeah. And if you're in the 1900s, you can just get somebody with a camera to do the exact same thing quicker, and then you can have it easier. But there's still a photographer. You have replaced a painter with a photographer, which is a whole industry of art now.
We're learning.
So now you have a writer
code, right?
for a movie, and you have possibly this generative AI thing, and one possible conclusion we'll have in the next few years is you'll still have a writer. Okay. Just like how you had an artist showing your family, the medium changed or the methodology changed. Mm-hmm. And so the writing methodology will change. Yeah. But what some people are hoping for is there's still a human involved in that loop.
Yeah.
I'm not going to promise you that there is, but a lot of signs point to yes.
I see what you're saying, and I heard this the other day. People were talking about, or the video was concentrating on how every time new technology comes out, the promise is that we're going to re-educate the public. We're going to teach these people how to, you know, use these new technologies as a tool for their trade, so that they're not replaced by the technology. And this goes all the way back to just
exactly, yeah,
you know, early records. But that's always the promise, is like, it's okay, we'll adapt. You know, we'll figure out how to keep the humans involved with all these advances in technology. And I think that is the concern, is that eventually the human gets removed. You know, it's not a simple switch of artist to photographer or photographer to
I may have skipped 100 years in that example.
Yeah, sure. But I think that's the concern, is that, like you very accurately put, there's a placeholder. There's a human placeholder, and I think that's the main concern, is that either AI or robotics and AI together will take away that position. So I don't even know if it's appropriate to ask, and if it's not, then we can just skip this question. But I think what it all boils down to at the end of the day, if you have 1,000 conversations, it's all centered around, have we gone too far? Is the marriage of general artificial intelligence and the amazing stuff that I'm seeing on these Boston Dynamic videos, whenever those two things merge and get together, what's the percentage risk you think that we're going to regret how much attention we've put into these fields of study and how far we've gotten with our understanding of general artificial intelligence and robotics?
Right. Well, maybe I'll take a cue from Michael, that you know where the word robot comes from.
I heard this
Here we
the other
go.
day, and I don't know that it's true because I didn't look it up, but it means servant, right?
It's from
Slave?
a Czech word for servant or slave.
Yeah.
And there was an author who wrote a play. It was Rossum's Universal Robots, and the robots were artificially created people. They weren't mechanical in this, but they
Automatons.
I guess they didn't really understand genetics and stuff at the time. It was quite a while ago, but
Yeah.
they grew them and made them out of, biological stuff. Anyhow, it's not that important. But the robots were servants, and eventually they got tired of it. They rose up. They killed all the, original humans and took over the world. And so, that has been played out many times in many different stories now. But you can even trace it perhaps further back with like the Gollum legends that I'm sure the author of that was familiar with. So this has been a notion that's been around. Now, are you asking how worried am I about it? I'm not.
Okay. 0%.
Well, you'll never ask a scientist 0% or 100%.
Right.
And I've already said, I don't know what the next 5 years will bring, but I'm quite confident the next 5 years won't bring a robot takeover. I don't see how it could happen. Just from what I know and the capabilities of robots, the capabilities of AI to do these things. And that's part of, like, I guess in a certain sense, we're working to push things a little bit closer to that point. But to me, it's just not. There's the number of leaps that would have to take place. I can't see
we
how they
just
could
got a
happen.
new fancy calculator. That's the way I see it. It's
Yeah.
like to me, it's not like most of the theory involving the application you see. It was written 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's like the fact that people are losing their mind. To me, it's like no. It's don't worry, people. We still have a long way to go.
Cody, do you agree with your cohorts here?
Yeah, I think saying I'm optimistic would be an understatement. I don't have any major concerns with that. Again, I wouldn't make a life promise or like the term 0%, but it's not really a concern I spend too much time thinking about.
But I will point out that I think most of us who are in this field are cognizant of this, and maybe that's not a risk we're worried about, but we do actually worry about if I make a robot nursing aid, is that one nursing aide who's not going to have a job.
Yeah.
And what we try to say is, well, we don't want that to happen.
Right.
But can we make it so one nurse's aide can now help 3 people when they could have only previously helped 1 person?
Right.
Or they can do their job for 5 years with less back injury.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're cognizant of this problem. There are, like, the Institute of Electronic and Electrical Engineers, which I'm a part of, Robotics and Automation Society is part of that. They have a technical committee on robot ethics. And it really is not, actually, this is interesting. 15 years ago when I joined, it was not at all concerned with the robots having ethics, because it wasn't even a concept really. I mean, outside of science fiction, there was no point to it. It was about the ethical use of robots, the ethical research. Now, though, they are saying we need to imbue these robot systems with some sense of ethics because we are moving towards that level.
Right.
But I'm saying there are absolutely people, us included, I think anybody who's really researching, the vast majority of us are cognizant of the field we're working in. And I think that's true of all scientists, well, most scientists, that, they realize the impact that our work can have on society,
Mhm.
and making sure that the work we're doing, at least people are thinking about what are these repercussions down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. So no singularity, no judgment day.
Right.
Probably not.
No.
Well, the singularity, that's the one thing where it's interesting. The whole definition is that we don't know what happens afterwards.
Right.
And we reach a point where it's so rapidly self-improving that, and I don't see it.
I don't see it happening. Like, in my lifespan, I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how long I will live, but I don't think
I mean,
so.
actually, I hesitate to say things I don't know too much about, but quantum computing seems to be the one thing that might change that.
Right.
Because the way that they operate is very different, and I don't know enough about them, but
and
they can solve problems, in theory, much faster than a typical computer, and that might be what would...
They just had a breakthrough in the cooling mechanism that goes into quantum computing, because that apparently is one of the... It takes up a lot of space, but also the other thing is cooling it. And they had some kind of breakthrough in that. So they are moving the needle forward on quantum computing, I guess. To me, quantum physics is right there with witchcraft, so I don't. I'm just too dumb to get it. But also, there's a lot of parts of quantum physics that are, and I understand everything's a theory, but there's too many. We think maybe not sure about this, but we're going this direction with it because that's the best we can do. So I don't know. Do y'all feel like quantum computing is solid as it seems on the surface? Have they got that worked out other than the size and temperature constraints?
I probably shouldn't have brought it up. I don't know.
Yeah,
we can
know
skip
pretty
that.
far. We maybe would talk about nuclear fusion just as well.
Right,
and I guess the reason I brought it up was that just, again, like why we're not maybe concerned about the singularity or anything is because the way computers work now, there's
it's too limiting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so maybe this total shift in the way computers work would be something that could move us into a realm where we really can't predict anymore.
Sure.
But
Sure.
Michael looks like he's been wanting to say something.
Come on, Michael.
No,
get in there.
I always had the opinion, and I've shared this opinion with Dr. Gans, and he disagreed with me, that I don't believe that there is a greater machine than the human body. Like I always said that, like, and I'm a big proponent of bio-inspired systems, which is like, we don't know how to build things, so we go out and we nature and we observe and we try to replicate. And we argued about that over lunch like the other day. And like Dr. Gans is a big, and this goes back like to the era of cybernetics, because before AI we had cybernetics, and some people believed in logic and some people believed in bio-inspired systems. I'm the second philosophical movement. So yeah, I don't think there is any danger for, like, again, like, I mean, when Google, I think people are reacting so much about it because, again, it goes back to this element of, like, oh, these things can do things that look similar to us. Therefore, now we should be afraid. It's like, guys, like, nobody, like, freaked out when Google was invented and, like, when Google searching, right? So why are we freaking out now that we can generate images?
Dial that back a little bit. I think some people did freak out when Google was invented. They just eventually stopped. And there's a story I really like about some people making, like, some of the original like silicon calculators, the vacuum tubes and whatnot. And when they started making these and proving them to people, they would actually put a time delay before it would show the response, because literally no one would believe that they would compute that quickly unless he put a time delay in it.
Oh, wow.
They'd be like, oh, you've probably just solved all of the math problems and baked them all in. It's not calculating solutions. And they put a time delay in there, then people actually start to believe it. And I think every generation has several things that they freak out about. Going back to, like, cave writings. And calculators were one of them. I think Google was one of them, but we got used to it, and now a lot of people, like, with the new generations, we're in, like, this post-Google era. Like, we talk about, like, oh, you Google something, and that's, like, a dead phrase now. Now everybody's back to you search things.
I remember,
Google was the champion.
I remember, for example, where Googling became a thing, right?
Yeah.
Because, like
it's a verb.
Yeah, now Googling is a verb, right?
Yeah.
It's like it didn't exist.
But now it's not.
Yeah, the idea, for example, of Googling your problem didn't exist when I was very young.
Mm-hmm.
Now it exists.
Yeah.
Right? Now everybody, just Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe I think that people now are freaking more than what they used to, because now it's like more easy to hear them, right? Because of the internet, right? So maybe, we always freaked out. But no, I think that like now, especially with AI and like writing and all that, I think that people are freaking a little bit more, because again, like they started replicating some of, they start replicating like human behavior,
Yeah.
more easily. So
Yeah.
that's why people are freaking out. But in my opinion, now they shouldn't freak out.
Can
We
I
have a
ask you
long
guys, I'll start with Michael, is there anything that you believe that might surprise people as far as, I think there's a 50-50 chance that we live in a computer simulation. Do you have any kind of strange beliefs like that?
I don't want to go to, because my favorite philosopher is Plato.
Okay.
Right? And like I don't want to go into solipsism and because the idea about like the simulation theory, you don't necessarily have to be in a simulation for the simulation theory to hold true, right? The idea of subjective reality, the fact that like I comprehend reality different than you, and you like everybody like comprehends like reality in a different way, right? That alone is the simulation.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
100%.
it's- Like we, it's the cave allegory, and we are all in a cave, and like if I just see different shadows than you, it means that,
Your reality is different.
yes.
My
Yeah.
chemical sack has interpreted the world different than
Yeah.
your chemical sack.
Yeah.
Do you
Right.
ever watch What We Do in the Dark?
What we do in the shadows?
The Shadows, yes. That's
Yeah,
right.
I really like that show. I didn't just randomly quote it without meaning to, did
No,
I?
no, but I mean the way you delivered that last line, you sounded just
Oh.
like the dude that
Yeah,
the energy
British
vampire.
guy. Oh, the energy one. I thought you were talking about the British one.
No,
Yeah.
it was. I don't know. It just queued me up to that. For an example of what you're
The
talking
biggest
about, you
mystery
can
is
go
the
to
human
QT
brain.
down the street and you
Yeah,
can
the-
see all the wild, like different personalities just by going to the gas station.
Yeah.
The closer you get to JPS, the more you can really see it. But yeah, just here in the real world, people are living in their own little reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Do I
I-
see colors the same way you see colors?
That one
Yeah.
drives me nuts.
So that alone is like an indication of like for example, there are a lot of people that they say, well, what you see is not real. Like, well, there is something, right? Whatever we see, there is something, but it doesn't matter what exists. What you comprehend of it matters, right? So we, for example, like let's say you have a TV, right, and you put your cat in front of the TV. The cat doesn't understand that this is a TV. I understand that it's a TV, so the TV actually might not exist for the cat. I mean, it exists as something, right?
Right.
But it's not, that something is not the same for the cat
That
as it is for
that
me.
TV starts feeding it dinner and it'll
Well,
come
look-
into its reality real
Yeah.
fast, right?
Yeah.
That's all that cat cares about.
But do you understand what I
I
want
got a
to say,
TV. I
right?
don't have a cat. So.
Yeah, no.
I think Michael's the only one of the three of us that doesn't have a cat.
Back in my home in Greece, I have 6 cats.
Oh my God,
So,
it's a lot of litter boxes.
yeah.
Cody, you got any? So Neil deGrasse Tyson says there's a 50-50 chance because we've got just as much evidence to support the theory as we do to not support the theory. And that's my weird belief, is that 50-50 chance we might be in a simulation. Do you have any odd beliefs that might surprise folks?
On that one, I'm wildly indifferent. I live in the world that I live in. Problem solved.
Nice.
I don't know. I tend to be told I have a very straightforward way of thinking, which I may have just given an example of.
Yeah.
I'll keep thinking about if
Okay.
I have an answer for you.
We'll circle back to you. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was kind of hunting, I had the most time to think about
You
it.
did.
I really
You really
couldn't think
did.
of much either. Maybe I'm also a bit more pragmatic.
Yeah.
Sometimes it irritates my wife, and she'll like, "What? Get excited about something." I'm like, "I am excited. I don't know what you."
This is my excited face.
Yeah.
But maybe kind of what you're talking about. I know your example, and I laid out that thought problem to my son, and it kind of baked his noodle.
Yeah.
But I do think maybe we're approaching a point where there's so much information and there's so much disinformation, and now we have AIs generating false information, and AIs self-training itself on false generation that was previously generated. I think we're already in a scenario where two people, you can ask them about an objective situation, and they will have not only just completely different opinions about it, which can be natural, but they will have completely different histories for that thing.
Yeah.
And, in politics, it's very much playing out now, where people just cannot agree because every single fact that they know about a thing is opposed to each other. And one person could be 100% wrong, but never admit it. But most people can actually be fairly right about a thing just because of the selective amount of information that they've been given. Right. And they can search a source that they trust and get that information. And then someone else searches another source. Yeah. And
you can prove it. You just got to know where to look.
Yeah.
Right?
It's very... Yeah, I do think we're in a scenario where that's going to become a bigger and bigger issue.
I think the term for that is we now live in a post-information scarcity world. Like a couple of 100 years ago, two people could have an argument, and neither one of them would have anywhere near enough information to actually win the argument.
Pendulum
and now
is
we
on the
live
other
in
side.
a world where two people can argue about something, and there is so much information on the topic that neither one of them could process enough of the information to actually win the argument.
Yeah.
And the other person won't accept the...
Yeah, because they have all this other information they're still processing
and
before they can even start to process the other person's information.
Does the government endorsing or paying Fruit of the Loom to run the Mandela effect experiment on the entire American public, was that part of this, you think? You remember the cornucopia on the label?
Okay, now you clicked. Yeah.
He knows what I'm talking about. So the monocle for the Monopoly guy never existed. The cornucopia on the Fruit of Looms label with the fruit in it never existed.
Oh, yeah. These things we've kind of convinced ourselves of.
And then Mandela, everybody remembers his funeral, and then 8 years later, they're like, he's getting out of prison. And then everybody's like, what? He died 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Nope, never happened. It's like, wow. So there's a conspiracy theory that we've all been subjected to this sociological experiment where they injected this information to see if we would accept it or not. And they actually, Fruit of the Loom, with their pictures of all their logos all over, like from the start till now, showed, there's never been a cornucopia on our labels. And then people started bringing like their old shirts with the tags on and being like, there's the label with the cornucopia. Why are you guys telling us that you never had that logo? And they're like, oh, yeah, no, we're just playing. We totally had that cornucopia. And they're like, what? What? And it's wild. So, and now people think it's a disinformation campaign just to see what you can convince humans of. Even if they've got a Fruit of the Looms T-shirt from 1995 in their closet, can I convince you that label that we all know so well was totally different?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that believe that might have been an actual social experiment that the government ran on us. So.
Unfortunately, you could probably find a database of 100,000 different clothing brands, and you would never be able to personally memorize all of those.
Sure. So, but I understand
but
what you're saying.
Yeah, that's an interesting example.
Ton of information, and
Fruit of the Loom is pretty big.
You did a great job of illustrating like the full pendulum swing, right?
Yeah.
Cavemen, no information, and then all the way to now, all the information, and both are just as close to solving an argument together, separated by 3,000, 4,000 years, 10,000, 50,000. Yeah, with more information or no information. So yeah, that's the scary stuff. Well, guys, is there anything that we can share with our listeners that you hope to kind of bring up on the show? Maybe something that you came to promote? A reason why you wanted to come on a podcast?
Well, I mean, we always enjoy talking about our work. So I think we were pretty excited about that.
I want to say something then. Read more books.
Read more books. Yes. On the computer or paperback?
Print them.
Print them. Okay.
Read more books.
Good.
I think I'll leave off on a funny story I kind of tell commonly about robots and how people interact with them, how we personalize them, and kind of almost how we trust them to an extent. We have an old robot that was super cool 10 years ago called Willow Garage PR2. A lot of people actually compare it to Johnny 5 and Short Circuit, although it doesn't have tracked wheels. But the upper half looks mildly similar. And I am able to either drive this robot all across our building or have it drive itself, and then I can just check in on it as it navigates through the building.
So cool.
It's got cameras on it. I can sit at the base station computer, view all the cameras, swivel the head around, map stuff. It's got arms. And I had, for a little while, implemented a microphone on it. And then I had a microphone on my desk. I could speak, and the robot speakers would be there, and then so on and so forth. But it wasn't always super reliable. So I would often listen to the microphone around the robot, but I would use text-to-speech and just have the robot text-to-speech what I would type in, because the audio signal wasn't always reliable. So I went to go remap one of our labs to put in my little database of building maps. And so I had propped the door open so I didn't have to deal with the door with the robot, because it's a little difficult sometimes. Then I walked to the other end of the building, turned the robot on, had it drive over and map the room, and then just me being a person at a desk, like, the robot may or may not close the door, and I don't want to get up from my desk, walk across the room, and close the door. And so I was like, there's other people in here, and I didn't have the microphone working at the time, so I just went up to a person with the text-to-speech. I was like, hey, can you close the door behind me? And then everybody in the lab turns around and looks at the robot with their head turned. And I was like, okay, well, they definitely heard the robot, so that's probably fine. I just repeat it one more time, and then I drive the robot to the door and start driving down the hallway. Now, luckily for me, the robot neck doesn't work like our neck, and it can basically turn all the way around. So I can view the door while the robot's driving around. And they all went to the door, and they're just staring out the door at the robot as it's driving down. And I'm just sitting there at the desk like, no one is closing the door. Great. And so I get the robot in, plug it in, turn it off, everything. Look out to the hallway. The door is still open. I'm like, okay, maybe the sound wasn't working. It was garbled or something. And so I walk down the lab. I'm talking to the graduate students. I'm like, hey, did you guys hear the robot? And they're like, yeah, we could hear it clearly. I was like, did you hear it ask to shut the door behind it? And they're like, yeah, we heard all of that clearly. I was like, why did you not shut the door? And they told me they weren't sure if the robot meant it. It was me typing it through the robot. But they were, and this is not like yesterday with generative AI. This was like 6 years ago or something like that. And they didn't know if the robot meant it when it said that. So it's just how we interact with things like that. We personify absolutely everything.
That is very
including
interesting.
What's now going to be generative AI, like Dr. Gans was saying. It's just predicting word after word to make a sensible pattern. But we are absolutely personifying it and being polite to it to loop all the way back to the beginning of the show.
So that behavior can be kind of counterproductive, I guess. Humanity trying to give human characteristics to a machine could be counterproductive.
It could be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's the absolute conclusion I would
That's
draw.
not the message to take away from this? Yeah.
I think it's unavoidable.
Yeah. That might be actually the message.
Look at, if they find faces on wood grain tables, and we do anthropomorphize
with everything.
So
certainly we would with the robot that has a face and arms and a torso and
then 4 eyeballs.
Nice.
I invite everybody to just Google the Willow Garage PR2. It's a fun robot.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes, and then
image search.
We'll put that up on social media and let people take a look at what you're talking about. And
Sure. It's kind of a.
Also, do y'all have any links that you'd like to share with people on information about either what you got going on, your personal stuff, or something that you're interested in?
Utari has a website.
Yeah, absolutely.
uta.edu/Utari.
Okay.
If
put that in there.
A lot of what we do is, like I said, it's driven by small businesses or, even individuals who have a project that they need. So you can, look for UT Arlington Research Institute. You can get in touch, and it's not just us in robotics. There's other researchers there too, and they can encourage reach out and see. We also occasionally have we go to middle schools or students come and see us and kind of see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we're happy to work out and work with
Cool.
students and educators and stuff like that.
Also, the door is open to your colleagues if there's a different expert in a field that would like to come on the show and just kind of educate the public on anything. That's a direction we'd like to go with Fort Worth Roots. So you guys are welcome, and y'all are welcome back if y'all are starting a new project or you got something interesting that you want to share with us and that we can dive into. Maybe here in a few weeks you totally change your mind on robots taking over the world and you're like, I got to talk to Andrew. I just found out about something. Skynet's real. Yeah, I don't know whose voice that was I was just using, but
Yeah.
anyway. All right, guys. Well, thank y'all so much for being here, and we'd love to get you back on the show. And Fort Worth Roots is here to support you in any way we can. Okay?
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you
guys,
very
thank
much.
y'all, and we will see you next week. All right. Thank you, Cody. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Michael. That was a great episode. We really enjoyed that. Guys, gals, sorry about the audio. It was a little bit off. We had the air conditioners going full blast. It was warm that day, and it really affected our audio. So apologies for that. Like I was saying at the beginning of the episode, please come check us out in the mornings. We're going to do everything we can to give you the best Fort Worth morning show available every Monday through Thursday, 7 to 8 for the call-ins. Make it 7 to 7:20. That way, if you call in, you don't miss us. But you can also leave a voicemail. So if you don't catch us while we're recording, we can also play your voicemails back. If you'd like to email us, you can do that, media@fortworthroots.com, and you can just text it out, or you can leave us an audio file of a voice recording, and we'll take care of it that way. Please come out and support this event benefiting Cook Children's this weekend. We are going to have a blast. We got 6 bands on stage, and they're all really excited about this. They're going to bring out all their friends. It's free to attend, big vendor market. It's going to be a lot of fun. Fort Worth Roots is going to donate $5 for every single one of you that shows up to 300 people. So make sure and show your support. We love you guys. We appreciate you listening to the Fort Worth Roots podcast. And I don't know if you heard this in a previous episode, but we were given, or rather you guys voted us in for Best of Fort Worth Podcast for 2024 in the Fort Worth Weekly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'd like to take a picture with you out there at our little event this weekend, Saturday, October 5th, noon to 10 o'clock. Let's talk about these sponsors real quick. Real quick. Flurry Fitness is a calisthenics boxing situation. It's a gym where you go in and work yourself a really good sweat during a 45-minute to 1 hour high intensity interval training, that kind of thing. It's great. It's fun. It's different. And the instructors really know what they're doing. Flurry Fitness is located over there by Target and behind the Waffle House right across from the military base here in Fort Worth. The Davis team. Go to yourdavisteam.com. These folks have sold 2 houses for us already, and they are literally the only ones that we would entrust you with to purchase a home here in the Fort Worth area, or I should just say the DFW area, because they focus mainly on Arlington, Fort Worth, and in this area it seems like, but they do also service, or rather travel to other areas of DFW as well. yourdavisteam.com. Galaxy Wilderness Disc Golf. Find them on Facebook as Galaxy Wilderness Disc Golf. They will bring you the entire disc golf setup out to wherever you want it. Set it up, break it down, and all you need to worry about is having fun and connecting with your friends outdoors. McFly's Pub is a 1980s Back to the Future themed bar, and if you haven't checked it out, you're missing out. People are flying in from all over the world to come check this bar out and experience the 1980s vibes, the Back to the Future murals, and just a really cool place, special Fort Worth location that you gotta check out. McFly's Pub. It is actually located outside the east gate of the military base. Amplify 817. Do your ears a favor. Go to amplify817.org and see why Fort Worth trusts the Fort Worth Public Library to showcase all of our best local artists. They they do this thing where they select a new group of Fort Worth artists every quarter. It's either 4 times a year or 2 times a year. But if you're looking for ways to find excellent local music, this is the way to do it. Amplify817.org. When you go in there, you can either pick the artist, you can just kind of browse the music, you can pick playlists. Fort Worth Roots podcast has 2 playlists on there that you can pick out. Any way you choose to search through their catalog, you also have the pleasure of knowing that the artists have already been paid up front. They don't have to wait for you to make or download, stream thousands of hours of their content in order for them to make money. They've already been paid, and we really appreciate that. We really appreciate Amplify 817 and the Fort Worth Public Library for doing this. Eaton Data Solutions. Richard Eaton, he works for a company that services Fortune 500 companies in the area of data protection. And over the years, he noticed, well, it's not just the big companies getting hit anymore. It's also the medium and small businesses. That's where Eaton Data Solutions comes in. These people will get your data, steal it, encrypt it, and then they'll try to sell you a password to unlock it. If you buy the password from them, you've screwed up twice now, because if they give you the password after you've paid them, they're going to come back and they're going to do it again. So you need Eaton Data Solutions before that happens. You would definitely need them afterwards. But you want to protect yourself before you wreck yourself. I think that's the official slogan. Anyway, give them a look, eatonsdatasolutions.com, and click on the drop-down tab and find their solutions tab. Anyway, they will bring out their team and identify key areas of vulnerability for your company. This is definitely not something that you want for any business, is to log into your computer one day and realize that all of your data has been corrupted or completely stolen. So don't let that happen. You need these guys. The need is there. That's why Eaton Data Solutions is there. Check them out. EatonDataSolutions.com. The Body Scrubbery. Our friend Michelle over there at the Body Scrubbery is ready to dish out some serious relaxation. Whether you need it for a gift idea or if you're just needing some TLC yourself, this is the place to go. Check out thebodyscrubbery.com. Pouring Glory. You know, we love these guys. We've been talking about them for years now. Pouring Glory is on 1001 Bryan Avenue and also the location of our big event. They've got award-winning food, and I'm not just saying that. You got to try this stuff out. I love their burgers. I'm a big fan of their chicken wings, but they got a bunch of other stuff on the menu as well, and everything on that menu is excellent. It's reasonably priced. You know, prices have just gone through the roof. Pouring Glory is one of those places that's just really hanging on, trying so hard to keep those prices low for you. But anyway, the food is worth it, and they could charge double, and you'd still pay it. Woodpost Metalworks, you can go to woodpostmetalworks.com, and they specialize in making signs for businesses or your home. Check them out, woodpostmetalworks.com. Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck. These guys have been taking care of us for a very long time, and we are excited that they are a sponsor. We like having good quality businesses that take care of our friends, and that's where Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck comes in. You can find them on our website, fortworthroots.com, along with all of our sponsors. Got a little drop-down tab that says Trusted Sponsors, and what is going on with the internets here? Anyway, whenever you go to fortworthroots.com, you can hit that Trusted Sponsors tab, and every one of our sponsors is listed right there. You can also Google these guys, Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck. I suggest you do that so that you can see their ratings. Their ratings are incredible. I don't know that there's a roofer in the DFW area that has a better reputation with the city, with the community, with your neighbors. Boulevard Brew, located right here off of, River Oaks Boulevard. It is next to Josephina's, a little Mexican food restaurant, just down the street from Grump's Burgers. You know, there's other coffee shops, big national brands. They don't care if you come or not, but whenever you walk through the doors at Boulevard Brew, our buddy Brad it's going to light up his day when you show up. Don't just go for Brad, though. The coffee's amazing, and the establishment is incredible. I call it a mullet. Business in the front, party in the back, because up front's the coffee shop, and then in the back they got the lounge and a bar. They do live music on most Fridays. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram as Boulevard Brew. Hoppin Fort Worth, our newest sponsor. We are doing our morning show at Hoppin because we wanted to do the morning show at somebody else's location. We didn't want to do this at the studio. We wanted to share the love a little bit, and we're planning on doing some events out here at Hoppin. This place is wild. You walk in there, you get yourself an armband. It's got a chip in it. They link your debit card to that armband. Then you go in there, and they've got, I think, is it 29? 29 taps on the wall. Our morning episode that we did today, we actually sat down with the owner, Michail, and he tells us a little more about the place and what goes on and the inner workings, the behind-the-scenes stuff. But it's really cool. If you know where Doc's Records is, it is right there on that same street. You just turn down like you're going to Doc's Records. You go down 3 more buildings, and there it is on the left-hand side. So go check that out. Walk up to any 29 of these taps. You don't have to wait on a bartender. I was telling Michail, usually when I go to a bar, I got to wait 3 to 5 minutes to get the bartender's attention. It's not, I don't know that that's true. Might be more like 2 or 3 minutes. But I still have to wait. At Hoppin, you don't wait. Unless there are 29 people inside that establishment all going to get a drink at the same time. There's no wait. Just walk right up, scan your armband, and then you pour it by the ounce. You only get charged for what you put in your glass. And the prices are actually really reasonable. And I think he said 25% off during happy hour on Saturdays. Is that right? Anyway, they've got specials, really good specials. And you can check that out. It's Hoppin FWTX, I believe, on Instagram to keep up to date with them. But go in there and check this place out. And when you get there, tell them you heard about them on the Fort Worth Roots podcast. That's actually how we found this place. A listener came up to us and told us about Hoppin. So anyway, all cool, all good, and we love it. And we're excited to be doing the morning show there Monday through Thursday. We kick things off at 7 o'clock. I get there at 6:30 a.m., get set up, and then start reading the news and telling you about community events and fielding phone calls from the community. So if you get a chance, check those out as well. You guys are going to be drinking out of a fire hose now because we are doing those 4 morning episodes every week in conjunction with our regular Fort Worth Roots podcast episodes. So check that out. We got some big updates to do with the show, to do with your host, and we're going to tell you all about that this Saturday out there at Pouring Glory. Hope you guys can make it out. On the roster, we got Itchy Richie and the Burning Sensations, The Gray, Late to the Station, a really badass band out of the Dallas area, Chloe Clemente and her band. And then who else? Who am I forgetting? Jaybirds, and I think I just named everybody off. We had a last-minute cancellation. No hard feelings. These things happen. We do hate that they're not going to be there. So the Spectacle actually will not be pulling up, but that's okay. We're going to keep it going. We're going to keep rocking without them, and I'm sure they'll be with us there in spirit. So if you guys ever need to get a hold of me, our email is media@fortworthroots.com. I would love for you to call me in the morning. See, it's Monday today. You got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You got 3 more days this week alone to call me and tell me what you got going on this weekend, what you got going on maybe next week. But we're here for it. So let me know. All right. Hope you're having a good week so far. Happy Monday, everybody. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. How about that? All right. Peace.